If you can hear me, clap your hands 2 times. If you can hear me, clap your hands 2 times. Make sure you're awake. Okay, my name is Shanae Erker. I am a senior tech recruiter. I'm also the founder and CEO of Recruiter Cousin Consulting. I am here to talk to you about your resume, how to get it together, and how to say certain things that will help you land your next opportunity. Before we get started, since all of you are here and you have spent your time with us, take Recruiter Cousin Consulting, all one word, don't include the LLC, just Recruiter Cousin Consulting at gmail.com, and tell me that you were here, and I will gift you my resume template on me, so you don't have to buy it. It'll be on me. The idea behind resumes is it can be difficult to figure out what the organization, what you should say, the content and context of what you should say, and all of that can be very difficult. So I wrote out a template that will help you all determine what you should say in order for you to get to your next opportunity. How many of you have hard time writing your resumes? How many have employed a resume writer or career coach of some sort to help you write your resume? Okay, I wrote this template so you don't have to do that. The idea is I literally baby step you bullet by bullet throughout this template so you know how to do it on your own. If you're using ChatGPT, make sure ChatGPT or any AI platform that you're using, it's an assistant, not a substitution. Trust me, we can tell when you use ChatGPT or any AI assistant on your resume. For the recruiters in the room, we all can tell. So make sure that if you're going to use one of those AI platforms, it's from your voice and not from the voice of the platform. Does that make sense? Yes? Yes. Very good. So I'm a recruiter. I have experience with higher ed, healthcare. That's where I started, and then I pivoted over to tech recruiting at Microsoft first, and I currently work at Palo Alto Networks recruiting for tech sales professionals, specifically for channel sales professionals. The idea behind what I do is I sell confidence. I refuse to allow anyone to believe that they cannot pivot and they cannot work at a specific company just because of what you look like and just because you may think you don't have the experience or the educational backing that says you cannot do this or you can do this. So the goal is to make sure you understand that whatever opportunity that you're looking for after you talk to me and Rochelle, that you understand you can do whatever you put your mind to. I'm also spiritual. I'm not going to take y'all down the path of church today, but I do want you all to know that I am going to be here so you believe in yourself. Imposter syndrome does not sit well with me. And so the idea behind this is when you walk out this room, you walk out this room more empowered and more motivated than when you came in. Why are we here? Resumes can be extremely difficult to put together and to organize, like I said at the very beginning of this talk. And so I'm here to help you break down the stereotypes of resumes and how we can try to figure out what is your voice, what is your organizational concept, and then how can we translate that, whether you have direct skills or transferable skills, into your next opportunity. So we're going to talk about summary paragraphs, how many bullets you should or should not have. We're going to talk about quantifiable and quality type metrics and job responsibilities. We're going to talk about just tailoring specifically, and then we're going to go into LinkedIn and kind of recruiting networking. So your resume is who you are, right? So when you all get my template, and for those of you who just came in, at the very beginning I said email recruitercousinconsulting@gmail.com. Tell me you were here, and I will send you my resume template on me so you all can know how to tailor your resume. And if you need that email address, let me know at the end and I'll send it to you. But why are you here? What's your skill set? And then where are you trying to go next? The idea behind writing a resume is understanding in that very top, right under your contact information, at the very top you have either a career objective or you have a professional summary. Most people don't know that you don't need both. Either you have a career objective or you have a professional summary. If you have both, it'll look very wordy and it'll look long. So what you don't want is you don't want your resume to be unattractive to the recruiter or the hiring manager, because we'll look at it and go, we're not reading this, and go to the next person. And the reason for that is because if you rule dump on a resume, that means you don't really know what you're trying to speak to next or what you're trying to go to next. So we're here to try to help you determine and break down what you should say on your resume and then where you should go next. So what we want to see on your resumes versus what we don't want to see. So this is a snippet of my actual professional summary on my resume. So notice I have 6+ years of experience in higher ed, healthcare, and technology industries. I talk about what I'm proficient in, and one thing I want to note is you see where it says top talent with strong communication skills. If you add some type of soft skill on your resume, make it pop out, right? So everybody knows how to communicate. If you know how to talk and write, or if you know how to talk and text, then you know how to communicate. The idea is, if you know how to communicate, is it strong? Are you an expert communicator? Try to help add some of those words that's going to describe your communication style. I also talk about how I have a solid background in compliance and legal matters. I have a law degree, so it's important for me to kind of have my law degree jump out, because I ain't go to law school for no reason. Help that jump that out, so that people understand that I have an expertise in legal matters when it comes to recruiting, so I understand the compliance around HR and all of the principles around that. I talk about a diverse talent pool, and I also talk about fostering inclusive recruiting practices so that I'm able to help drive success through our talent acquisition. So the idea is to make this a summary to where you're talking exactly what you do, but it's also not too long. If it gets too long, what you do is you take your skill set, or you take your summary, put it in ChatGPT and say, make this shorter and concise. And ChatGPT will spit something back out to you to make it shorter and concise. Again, if you do that, if you use an AI platform, make sure it's more of an assistant and not a substitute. Because if it's a substitute, we will catch it. Very good. So summary template for you. What do you do now, and how many years of experience do you have doing that particular thing? What are you skilled in, and then what are you looking to go into next? Your summary should not be more than 4 sentences, 5 at the most. If it's 5, it's pushing it, because at that point it's starting to become a little longer of a paragraph than it should be. So make sure you're as concise as possible. If you have a hard time being concise, feel free to use some type of AI platform. There are a million of them at this point out in the world. So feel free to use an AI platform or my template to help you kind of condense it a little better. So when it comes to quality versus quantity, what are we talking about? So anytime, and you'll see this on my template, and again, for those of you who just came in, I'll keep saying it. If you're here in this session, email recruitercousinconsulting@gmail.com, and I will send you my resume template on me. If we're talking about quality versus quantity, I always like for people to understand, what is the difference between telling us what you do and then how well you did it, right? So at the top of your resume, you have your contact information, including your name, email, city and state, LinkedIn profile. I think that's it. And then any titles or certifications or degrees that you may have. So for me, for example, I'm Sinead Urquhart, JD, or Dr. Sinead Urquhart, whichever one I decide to choose. Under that, it'll be my professional summary or career objective. Again, you don't need both. Under that, it'll be your skills section. Your skills section is important because the idea behind a resume is take us through your story, as we talked about at the very beginning. If you have your skills section and you have certain skills listed, how did you apply those skills? That's where you put that in your experience section. If you have your skills at the bottom, it's not necessarily a make or break, but it can be difficult if I'm recruiting software engineers, for example, which I've done in the past. And if anyone are software engineers in here, you know job descriptions will ask for Java, JavaScript, C, C#, C++. If I'm looking for those specific skills, sometimes a job description will say 5+ years in this, or 6+ years in this. If the skills section is at the bottom, I need to figure out where the skills are and then figure out if you applied it in your experience section. If you didn't apply it, I don't know how many years of experience you have in that particular skill. So it's easier if you put the skills section right under your professional summary and then tell us exactly where you applied it as we're going through your resume. So quality over quantity would mean if you've debugged something, how many things did you debug? If you oversaw a team, how many team members did you oversee? If you migrated, integrated, anything of that nature, how many times did you migrate or integrate? If you're a sales professional, what was your quota versus what you actually achieved? Or how many partners did you work with? Or how many customers did you work with? All of that is really important because it helps us understand the cross-functionality of what you do and who you are, and then being able to tie in attention to details and being detail-oriented, which most people don't realize is what we read when we're reading between the lines in your experience section. I talk fast. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm from Jersey, so I talk fast. Okay, very good. If I'm talking too fast, y'all tell me. Okay, so for example, again, this is from my resume. So I currently work on a contract at Palo Alto Networks. I work, and if you see the squiggly lines, just because Microsoft Word don't understand that creativity and spelling is a thing. So I work with Smart Recruiters. So I put Smart Recruiters, which is an applicant tracking system, in my skill section. I then bolded it in my experience section so people understand how many years of experience I have with Smart Recruiters specifically. That's important because as a recruiter, we work in different applicant tracking systems, which is the system that when you apply to a role, it's secure so that nobody can hack into the system to get your personal identifiable information, your PII. If somebody gets that, that's a security issue. That means you as a person, if somebody gets that information from a company, you can sue that company. So we always ask you to apply directly to a role because that secure applicant tracking system keeps your information secure. So if you ever go on LinkedIn and a recruiter says, don't send it here, put it in the applicant tracking system or apply and then tell me you did it, I am one of those recruiters. It's just because if someone decides to hack into my LinkedIn and they see your resume in a DM, then I can't do anything with that. But if you know the company I work for, you can sue that company, and that's not what we want. So, secure applicant tracking system, Smart Recruiters. From then, as a recruiter, it's also important that I use LinkedIn. So I put LinkedIn or LinkedIn Recruiter, which is the backend tool we use as recruiters. From there, I worked at Microsoft previously, so I was promoted from a 60 to a 61 in the first 14 months, which is important because that's hard to do. I'm a G, I'm good at what I do. That's why I put it there. From there, the idea behind why I said I average 4.7 hires per month is because that's external hires, which is hard to do. So our metric or quota was for us to maintain 3.5 hires a month. I averaged 4.7. So it was important for me to understand that not only did I average that, but I decreased my time to fill under 60 days using iCIMS, which was another applicant tracking system. And then from there, how many actual requisitions I oversaw or was assigned to me, and then what specific positions did I recruit for. So at the top, you see technical channel sales, you see go-to-market, and then at the bottom, you see including data and applied scientists. Those things are important because it could be a position or some type of skill set that's difficult to fill. So if I was able to decrease time to fill with a difficult skill set, that means I'm the bomb.com at what I do, okay? So if you have something where it helps you stand out or you're speaking to your next opportunity, make sure that if that is specifically tailored to you, you put that in your resume. I understand that everyone has a different way of preparing for interviews. And the idea behind preparing and really being successful is tailoring it to how you prefer to answer questions. But it's also to make sure that in your preference, you're getting your message across to your interviewer or the hiring manager so they can assess whether you are the most qualified candidate or the ideal candidate for the role. So I put all of these different ways that you can prepare your answers and kind of determine how you prepare for each interview so that you can find your own method. We all know that STAR is the most popular one, but if you can find that CAR, SCORE, or SOAR work for you too, then you'll also be probably more successful. And the reason for this is because I see a lot of posts on LinkedIn or any other social media platform where people will say, I made it to the final round and I'm excited and I'll update y'all later. And then when we get the update, it's I didn't get it and I don't really know why. So most people don't really get that feedback or they just don't know why in general. And I've found, if we can have a real conversation, I found that many people have a very difficult time with being successful in interviews. And so if we can kind of catch that in the beginning, when you go into your interviews, you may be a little bit more successful. And for Rochelle and I, we screen and sit in on a lot of interviews so we can tell and assess when candidates are nervous. We can also tell if y'all using ChatGPT and reading your answers. We understand that we see the ads and they'll never know. Yes, we do. We know. So make sure that if you use that stuff, that we can't see it, because I've actually sat in on debriefs where an interviewer said that the candidate, she put the question in ChatGPT, the interviewer did the same thing, and the candidate spit the exact code that ChatGPT gave her out to the candidate, and she said the same exact thing. So make sure that, if you at least make small mistakes so that you can't tell that you got it from that platform, but the hope is that you can find your method. So I'm gonna use my resume as an example. So that way, I'm a visual person, and so it's just easier. So for my resume, I put my education at the bottom. And I put it at the bottom because if a job description requires a degree, we'll find it. To me, that's not important on where it is. So putting it at the bottom just makes sense because if you apply to a specific role, clearly you have that educational backing that says you meet the minimum qualifications. So your question is where you put the coursework. So if you put it to where you have your bachelor's degree, and then if you want to put what the bachelor's degree was in, so like here I have St. Augustine's University, political science, and then under it I put minor in English, magna cum laude. So if you want to put what you majored in and then under related coursework and list it, that's fine. Okay. That answer your question?
Yeah, and so you recommend doing it at the bottom?
I personally do. Only because in the very beginning I said professional summary, skills section, experience, where did you apply these skills, right? So the only thing is if you put your education right under your profile, it pushes your experience to the second page, especially if you list out your skills. Some people decide to write their skills in paragraphs, which I don't like. If you put them in columns and you list it that way, it's just an easier read. So I try to make it to where, I tried my template to where it was as easy of a read for anybody who was reading it as possible. So your education to me is not as important to put at the top because like I said, if you apply to a role and that role requires a certain level of education, you apply to that role for a reason, meaning you have the minimum qualifications from an educational perspective. Putting it at the bottom, we'll find it. Oh, it's projects. Oh, no. If it's coursework project related, then go ahead and put it at the top. Like putting your education at the bottom or the top is not a make or break. I just try to organize it to where it's as an easy read as possible. So if it pushes it down, that's fine. We'll still find the experience. I read resumes every day where the experience is pushed down. If it's pushed down, that's fine. Putting it at the top is okay. It's just you want to make sure that if you have education, sometimes people will put a project section, or if they put the project section, they'll put it after the experience. So we're supposed to read the entire resume anyway. If the stereotype is we only spend a certain amount of seconds on a resume, that means we're literally looking for a specific thing. If we don't see it in the experience section, we'll go to a project section. That's for anybody who just graduated. So it's okay to have an additional project section. So I'll tell you, I cut this down. This was 5 pages. Don't do that. Y'all don't do that. I applied to Microsoft with 5 pages and got a job, but don't do that. I don't recommend anybody do that. So I am of the opinion that you can have a resume that's more than 1 page. If it's 1 page, you're cutting out experience. That's number one. You're cutting out impact just to smash all of your experience and your content onto 1 page. I've seen people do that, and how they do it is they decrease the font size, right? We're not reading that. Y'all, we are not going to read that. I promise you. I wear glasses when I'm sitting at my computer, and even my glasses not gonna pick up on those words, so we're not gonna read that. If you need to push it to 2 pages, that's okay. 2 full pages is fine. I hit 3 because of my civic engagements and my recognition. I've been fine with my resume, which is why I didn't cut it down to 2 pages. I've had it at 2 pages, but touching 3 pages for me was fine too. It's also going to depend on your experience. So there's also a part where your resume template is going to look different based on you being a senior or some type of executive. So if you're an executive, most of the time there'll be key insights or key accomplishments at the very top, and all of those will be bulleted. And then at the bottom, sometimes senior executives will put literally position, company, year, and all of their bullets are related to all of the bullets they have at the top. They're related to all of the jobs that they've had, and that's fine too. So all of these resume templates are just going to look different based on the amount of experience that you have. There are skills that y'all put on y'all resumes that are not important. Yeah. So, and I'm saying it in the nicest way possible. It's not important, right? Literally, it's not important. And the reason for that is, and I promise y'all, this template is going to help you cut your resume down. So I literally, and I'm gonna actually pull it up so you can show exactly what I'm talking about. Also, this is every single template I've ever written for every piece of thing. So the idea is, and my rule for the template is When you go to your experience section, I'm only allowing you 4 to 6 bullets, 6 at the most. 6 is pushing it. I want you actually to get to 4 or 5 bullets. When the idea behind writing a very solid, condensed, concise, but very detail-oriented, very contradictory what I just said, but go with it, very detailed resume is you have to pick the very most important things that you've done. And if those things don't have impact tied to it, they're not important enough. So my homework for all of you is to list every single thing you've done that you think is important at every single job that you've had. If you can't remember, that's an issue, because when you go into your interviews and you can't pull examples from every single job that you've had, the question then becomes, why is that job listed on your resume to begin with? I've had hiring managers that will say, this person know their resume. They can run their resume. If you can do that, you can impress a hiring leader, and interviews won't be as hard because you're now having a conversation versus feel like you're being drilled. So your homework is for you to take the very most important things and write them down. If they don't have impact, it's not important enough. Now, then what you do is in order for you to cut it down, is you take the very most important things. Out of all the important things, it's the most important that you absolutely know, I did that, that's mine, I know that that's going to get me my next opportunity. Those are the things that you list on your resume. Those things also have to have impact tied to whatever you did. So for me, I would put job duty, that's most important, job duty. I may even add a third job duty that's most important. Now quantify all of those things. And then my fourth bullet should be, based on these things, this is my impact. If you can't do that, the things that you listed above, they aren't important enough. Here's where keywords come in. So y'all know the keywords that y'all be trying to put on your resumes from job descriptions. If you can, in your situation, if you can find keywords that'll help you, then that may be beneficial to you getting your next role. So for me, when I graduated college, it was, I didn't have a lot of experience from like a political science type of situation, but I had call center experience. So what I did was I added the software that we use for the call center and how many calls I took a day. So if you could keyword that'll try to help you it'll most likely help you get to your next opportunity where you don't have to use as much keywords. You just have to be creative in the beginning in order for you to stick out. Because you have to remember, when people don't have that much experience, that most likely means you're competing with thousands of other people because everybody's in the same boat. So if you can keyword your search or keyword your resume, but then also be in rooms like this where you know recruiters, then it'll help you get to the next person that you need to get to in order for you to get to your job. Don't make it hard on yourself. So a lot of people try to switch industries, companies, and positions all at the same time. That makes it difficult. So if you have a public sector background, every company has a public sector department. Go into the public sector department of that company and then internally switch over into commercial. So I'm currently recruiting for a role right now where it's a channel sales, state and local, so SLED, state and local, and then educational. But then the candidate that we're hiring, they recently got into SLED not too long ago. She has some years behind her, but it hasn't been too long. But before that, she was doing something else. All she did was elevate herself in the current company, and then she switched companies. So all you have to do is find a position within a company that's public sector or have the public sector contracts, then switch over to commercial. Just makes it easier. I would say senior is more similar to, and for those, if y'all can't tell, I'm pulling up free templates, so I only saw one person take a picture. Okay, I only saw one person take a picture. Y'all better be taking these pictures of these templates. Okay, hallelujah, holla back. So if you're a senior, remember that's below executive. So you want to be a little bit more simple with your template. So this template that I'm going to send is going to speak to senior. It just depends on how you word everything. So your senior, honestly, how you're wording it is going to be based off of your impact. So if I were you, so at one of my most recent roles at Microsoft, this was important because I was promoted quickly. This was important because I decreased time to fill. And how did I do that? I managed all these requisitions for these professions within Microsoft Security. And then, did I collaborate? Yes. So I collaborated with hiring managers, stakeholders, et cetera. How did I source? LinkedIn. and conducted weekly meetings with prospective candidates. And then what did I do that was outside of my day-to-day? That's really what gets you over to the top. It's not just about what you're doing in your day-to-day. How were you able to go above and beyond that says, I'm already operating in this type of space. All you need to do is just say you're promoted. So I would add that language that speaks to what are you doing that's honestly extracurricular activity, but it still kind of applies to your job all at the same time. So an example of that would be every company has an ERG, right, or an employee resource group. So if you're actively participating in those employee resource groups, whether it's events or whether in those events are in person or virtual, how are those events tied to your day-to-day? So that's what I did. So I literally took our employee resource groups, used those things to hire more diverse talent that nobody had done before. So when they realized I was using employee resource groups to help get referrals and then hire diverse talent at senior levels, that was what kind of took me over to the top. So you can find extra things that you're doing that's not technically doing work that you're not being paid for, but you're embedding that extracurricular activity into your day-to-day, that'll be helpful. But it's just this template, because senior and principal, not really executive. It's when you start getting to the partner and VP level, that's really your template will change. When the change of the template and how you actually explain your experience would come at the more like manager, senior manager, VP, partner, any type of executive role is where that comes into play. And that executive would mean VP, partner, stuff like that. At different companies is different levels. So it just depends on whatever company you're looking to go into, what level starts at executive is what you would need to know. Your homework, I give everybody homework who booked me for time. Your homework is to write down every important thing that you think is important at your current and past job. Everything that you think is important, you write it down. Whether you type it, you text it, or you write it down, pen and paper, write it down. Of all those important things, they may be 10 to 20 important things because we all do many things at our jobs. You take the top most important things. The things that you absolutely know, these are quantifiable. These are the things that I know I did and that changed the game. And those things are things like you've established, you've developed, you've implemented, you've migrated, you've embedded, you've debugged, all those things, right? If those things have impact tied to it, those are your most important. If they do not have impact tied to it, there is no point of putting it on your resume. Everything that you put on your resume has to have some type of impact tied to it. If it doesn't, it's just taking up a space that another job responsibility could take to make your experience go over to the top. So it's going to take you a while to actually decide what are the most important things that you've done. And if those things don't have impact to it, take it off. And then your keywords are the things that, like if you use software, what software did you use? Or anything that you use in your skills section, are those things, the things that you list that you put on your resume, are the words that you put in your skills section applied into those very things that are most important? Because remember, there's no point of putting skills on your resume if you don't tell us where you applied it. It makes no sense. Y'all, real quick, for those of y'all who are still here, there's a job board that I use every day called Welcome to the Jungle. Use Welcome to the Jungle. Here's why I like it. If you don't get the job, I like the fact that they still send you rejections. That it kind of gives you the idea to have closure and move on. But Welcome to the Jungle gives you a lot of companies that you probably didn't know exist. There are many companies I come across that I didn't know were in existence, and it may help decrease the amount of competition that you have because these are companies that other people don't know exist.